I'm 103 years old, and I've outlived almost everyone I've ever loved. My wife, my closest friends, even some of my children. I've had more time than most people ever get. And yet, when I look back at my life, I don't feel like I used it. There is one word responsible for that. One and small, quiet, completely ordinary word. That destroyed more of my life than any failure ever did. Later. I said it my whole life, and now I've run out of it. When you are young, later feels harmless. It doesn't feel like a lie. It doesn't feel like a trap. It feels like patience, like wisdom, like you are being smart. By waiting for the right moment, you tell yourself, I am not giving up. I am just not ready yet. And that sounds reasonable. It sounds responsible. So you say it once, then again, and before you even realize it, ladder stops being a plan. It becomes a way of living, a habit so deep. You stop noticing you are doing it at all. I lived that way for over 8 decades. I told myself I was being careful, being strategic, being wise. But the truth I didn't understand until it was far too late, is that ladder isn't a plan. It is an escape. And I used it every single day of my life. I was 18 when it began. Back then, I had a version of myself in my mind. A man who was more than what I was. A man who had built something real, who had gone somewhere, who had become someone worth remembering. I could feel him clearly. I could almost see him. And I wanted to be him desperately. But the gap between who I was and who I wanted to be, that gap felt enormous. And enormous things require time. So I told myself I'd start later, not because I was lazy. I want you to understand that. I was not a lazy young man. I worked hard. I showed up. I tried. But there is a difference between working hard at what is in front of you and taking the terrifying step toward what you actually want. That second thing requires something harder than hard work. It requires you to risk being wrong about yourself. It requires you to find out whether the person you believe you are actually exists. And at 18, I wasn't ready to know the answer to that question. So I waited. I told myself I was waiting for the right money, the right opportunity, the right condition, the right moment. I believed those things were real. I believed the right moment was coming just around the next corner. I just had to be patient. And for years, that belief felt like wisdom. Then life arrived, not slowly, all at once. A job that needed doing, bills that needed paying, people who needed me. And suddenly, the dreams I'd been saving for later started feeling like luxuries, things other people had time for. Not me, not now. So I made a deal with myself. When things settle down, I'll start. When the pressure eases, I'll begin. When life gives me a window, I'll climb through it. But here's what I did not understand then. What I wish someone had grabbed me by the shoulders and told me. Life does not settle down, not in the way you are imagining. The pressure doesn't ease. The window doesn't open by itself. There will always be something urgent. There will always be something important. There will always be something that feels more pressing than your dream, a crisis, a responsibility, a person who needs you right now. And those things are real. I am not saying they aren't. I am saying that if you wait for them to stop, you will be waiting forever. I waited for things to settle, and things never settled, and my dreams stayed behind, frozen exactly where I left them. Here is what took me nearly a century to understand. Later is not about laziness. It is not about weakness. It is not about not caring. Later is about fear. Specifically, it is about one of the most powerful fears a human being can feel, the fear of discovering the truth about yourself. See, as long as you haven't tried, you are still capable of everything. The dream is still alive. The version of yourself that succeeds, that version still exists. But the moment you try, you have to find out whether it is real. And that is terrifying, because what if you try and it doesn't work? What if you reach for the thing and you miss? What if you build something and nobody cares? Those questions don't feel like questions when you are young. They feel like verdicts. And ladder protects you from those verdicts. It keeps you safe in the place where you are still capable of everything, still talented, still full of potential, still the person who could, if only the time was right. I lived in that place for decades, and I want you to hear this clearly. That place is not safe. It feels safe, but it is the most dangerous place a person can live, because you cannot fail in that place, but you also cannot win. You cannot grow. You cannot become. You can only wait, and waiting, silent, comfortable, reasonable, feeling, waiting is how a life disappears. Nobody tells you that dreams don't die dramatically. There is no moment, no explosion, no single choice where you decide to give up. It happens the way fog rolls in, quietly, gradually, so slowly you don't notice until you can't see the thing you were chasing anymore. At 30, my dreams were still vivid, still mine. I still believed in them, even if I wasn't acting on them. At 40, they were a little dimmer, a little further away, but still there. At 50, I told myself I was simply being realistic, that some things were for younger people, that wisdom meant knowing when to let go. And at 65, when I retired and finally had the time I'd been waiting for, I looked at the window and I tried to remember what it was I had wanted to do. And I couldn't quite reach it. Not clearly. It was like trying to remember a dream hours after waking. The shape was there, but the color was gone. The urgency was gone. The person who had wanted those things, that young man, he felt like a stranger to me. And I grieved quietly in a way I could never explain to anyone. Because how do you explain that you have lost something you never even reached for? Now I am 103 years old. I have more memories than most people have years. And I want to tell you something that I have spent a long time finding the right words for. I do not regret my failures. I regret my silences. I do not regret the times I tried something and it didn't work. I regret the times I said nothing when I should have spoken. I do not regret the risks that didn't pay off. I regret the risks I never took, because failures have something valuable inside them. They teach you, they change you, they prove that you showed up, that you were present for your own life. But the things left undone, the conversations I delayed, the trips I kept postponing, the people I meant to call, the things I kept telling myself I'd get to later, Those have nothing inside them, only absence. And absence, when you are old, is a very heavy thing to carry. You don't run out of time suddenly. Nobody does. You waste it, day by day, choice by choice, in 1,000 small moments where you chose the comfortable thing over the meaningful thing, the easy thing, over the important thing, the safe thing, over the real thing, until one morning you wake up and you are 103 years old and you understand, finally, completely, with no room left for argument. There is no later. There never was. I have one thing left to say, and I am saying it to you, specifically you, the person listening right now. You still have something I have almost none of. Time, real time. The kind of time where things are still possible, where the version of yourself you dream about is still close enough to reach. Don't waste it the way I did. Don't let ladder become the story of your life, because I promise you, I am living proof of this ladder always feels like it is coming until the day it doesn't. And when that day arrives, and it will arrive for all of us, you won't be sitting there wishing you had more time. You'll be sitting there wishing you had used the time you already had. The time you let pass, the time you traded for comfort, the time you spent waiting for a moment that was always already here. So do the thing, say the words, make the call, start the work. Not later, not when the conditions are perfect, not when you are ready. Now, while you still can, while it still matters, while you are still here.
Because I am 103 years old, and I am telling you the truth. Later never came for me. Don't let it never come for you.